All right, you can watch our guest on the SEC Network traveling around the southeastern part of the United States doing play-by-play with his team. That includes SEC greats Jordan Rodgers and Cole Kublick. Welcome on to the Georgia Show, Tom Hart. Tom, obviously we're going to talk some college football here, but you covered the Braves for a few years back in the day. Just clinched number 5 in a row in the NL East, my man. I know you're keeping track with that team as well. What do you think about this squad, dude? They're unreal.
Fantastic. I mean, what a run, man. I mean, like last year it was August on, this year it was June on, and I don't know, to heat up with the weather, man, it was just something else. Brian Snicker is not only one of the greatest people you'll ever meet, but you can see how that relates to his players and being a player's manager. There's no pressure. He's kind of if you were his kid, he would parent you like this. It wouldn't be, I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed.
Just disappointed.
And that's kind of what he said April and May. I'm not mad at you, just disappointed. And then you have this responsibility to the guy that you're going to play your best. So I'm just really impressed with how they turn things around.
Yeah, he's got such a great demeanor, loves talking to the media, and baseball's a little different. You get a lot more time with the managers and everything, but just a great dude. Now, you grew up in Missouri. Were you ever tempted to decide between the Cardinals and the Royals growing up?
Yeah, I had to. Now, the rules were a little bit different back then because it was before interleague play, so to be fair, you could be fans of both teams, but I was Royals through and through. My dad was from Kansas. My mom spent time in the western part of the state. The wrinkle is that if I ever wanted to go to games, my parents didn't take me to a lot of games. We're 2 hours away from both. But my friends' parents took them to a lot of games. So if I was going to be a hanger-on, more often than not, we were going to Busch Stadium and going to see the Cardinals. So I wasn't going to say no. So that was an easy grasp to have them be my secondary team. And then one of my, not my first jobs, but one of my early jobs in broadcasting was with in Knoxville with the AA Cardinals affiliate. And we had a brand new catcher who was in his second year of pro ball, first year full season, an 18-year-old from Puerto Rico who had never seen snow, Yadier Molina. So we spent time around dudes like that and got to see his final regular season game at Busch Stadium with Pujols and Adam Wainwright, Georgia kid, on Sunday. That was really, really cool, man. It was really cool. The way Ollie Marmol, their manager, went to take Wainwright out of the game in the 5th inning, and he hugged Pujols, who was playing first. I was like, why is he hugging the first base? And then he hugged Yadi. And the next thing you know, the three of them walk off the field together. And you don't have to be a Cardinals fan or even a baseball fan to appreciate that. It was really neat.
Yeah, I married into a Cardinals family, so I can't really escape it, and I have a feeling that some paths may cross here in a few days. Tom, let's talk about some college ball, man. Congratulations on the record you guys shattered with that Georgia-Mizzou game. ESPN PR tweeted, you shared it, 854,000 unique viewers, most across all of ESPN's digital 31.2 million minutes watched. It's a lot of minutes, and that is the second most streamed game in SEC Network history, trailing only the 7-overtime LSU Texas A&M thriller in 2018. I think a lot of those views are coming from Georgia coaches trying to figure out what the hell their offensive line was doing. I know you've heard a lot from Cole Kublick on that during the game, but being a Mizzou guy yourself, what was the atmosphere like there, and what was it about that game that you think lends itself to having that much staying power?
Well, first of all, I'm not quite sure how to take that. I mean, I retweeted it, and it's a compliment that so many people were watching online, but it struck me as maybe that was a second screen thing. I'm curious how many people were watching on, quote, linear television. Because I think that audience was huge as well. But anytime the number one team in the country is in trouble, people are going to be watching their game, and they're going to pull the other one up on the phone or the iPad and say, hold on, I got to see this. Is Georgia going to lose? How the hell is Missouri staying in this game? And the interest level skyrockets, especially in the second half. I made this comment late in the second quarter, I think, that Georgia, first of all, Missouri threw the first punch. Sacked Stetson in the first drive. Their defensive line was fantastic. Went right through Georgia's O-line. But they were very aggressive, and that paid off for them. And it got Georgia off balance and off schedule all night. And that was kind of a recurring theme. But what happened was, by getting off to a strong start and grabbing the lead, Georgia allowed Missouri's crowd to get into the game. And they allowed Missouri's crowd to influence the game. Now, there was a lot of red there, as there always is when Georgia plays a road game, and tickets were readily available for anybody who wanted to travel to mid-Missouri. But the Missouri crowd was into it, and they were loud, and it was one of the best atmospheres they've had in a long, long time. Now, a big part of that is they're used to playing 11 a.m. games because they're just not really in demand right now. So that added to the fact that, they had a night game and they had the number one team in the country there. But there's a lot of question marks for Georgia after that one. And you hit on it. The offensive line was a real issue. And Kirby said it at halftime. He told Cole, he said, we're just getting our butts kicked up front. Now, if there's a positive to take out of it, in the fourth quarter when they needed a drive and they went to a sugar huddle and they ran to the line and they just knocked the snot out of Missouri up front and they overtook the game, that's a great sign. The question would be, from a pessimist, well, where was that in the first quarter? And I think that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, it looks like Mizzou really went after Stetson so hard in that game that anything that was going to work for Georgia very quickly stopped working. Stetson really got shook in that game, Tom. I mean, he between the ears seemed to be feeling that pressure, and then came back in that fourth quarter and regained his composure, which was encouraging to see if you're a Georgia fan, but certainly not Stetson's best game. Georgia has Auburn coming up. Have you been to any Auburn games this year? I haven't been able to look up your schedule. I don't know how familiar you are with what Auburn's got going on this year.
No, I haven't seen them in person. My biggest curiosity with them, and once again, since I haven't, I can't comment with authority on this, but my biggest question is, can they do the same thing Missouri did on the defensive line? Now, offensively, they've been through a couple of different quarterbacks. Tank Bigsby is still Tank Bigsby, and they can run the ball fairly well, but they blew a 17-point lead to LSU. They just don't have they don't seem to be a whole lot of positive feelings around that program right now, with a head coach walking the green mile and who knows what's next. But the recruiting certainly hasn't been to what Georgia has done over the years. By the way, I wanted to go back to this number. Like, the reason the line for that game was nearly 30, I think it was 28.5 going in. The reason it was so big is not just that Georgia is number one, but why they're number one. Missouri's got a wide receiver named Luther Burden III. He's a 5-star recruit. Since Rivals has been using this recruiting system, which I think probably goes back to 2000, I don't know exactly, but since they've been using it, Missouri's had a total of 5 5-star recruits. 5. That's it. They only have 1 on the team right now. Georgia's had 61. So when you recruit at a high level, that's like trying to run an NFL team and saying, oh, yeah, Belichick over here is going to get 4 first-round picks every year, and you only get a first-round pick once every 6 years. It's really hard to compete, but that's the disparity in college football, because the elite teams like Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson to an extent, they all recruit at such a high level that it's really hard for the folks in the middle of the pack or the bottom of the league to compete with them, usually.
Have you seen that Missouri's raised its caliber, though, overall by joining the SEC? Because I don't know if it's just Georgia. I don't pay attention to a lot of other teams going to Mizzou, but it seems like if Georgia does play a game after 11 a.m. Central, if they don't put Mizzou away quickly, it does turn into a pretty hostile environment for the Dogs.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting in that series history that when it first started, Missouri was close in a couple fourth quarters and got a win in Athens, actually. But I don't think joining the SEC has been brought in the recruiting haul that people thought maybe it could for Missouri. When the Tigers were competing in the Big 12, went to number 1 in the country in 2007, they had a quarterback by the name of Chase Daniel, who's still playing in the NFL as the world's richest backup, right? Mm-hmm. And promised to buy a bar tab for everybody in town if they would have won the game Saturday night. Chase is from Texas. A lot of the great defensive linemen came from Texas. They got a couple of big recruits in-state, mainly from St. Louis. But the pipeline that led them to being the number 1 team in the country came from Texas and was tied directly to Missouri being in the Big 12 because guys like Chase Daniel weren't going to get a scholarship offer from Texas or Texas A&M because he was 5'11". So Missouri could come in and get second-tier D linemen, linebackers, quarterbacks, whatever, and say, hey, come to Missouri, and we're going to play in your backyard half the season. We're going to go play at Texas and Texas A&M, and we're going to go to Oklahoma, and we're going to go to Texas Tech, and we're going to be there. So that was part of the pitch, and obviously Texas is a recruiting-rich state. Then the shift to the SEC, and now you only got 1 team in the state of Texas, and the entire landscape geographically has shifted to the east. Well, now what are you going to do? You're going to compete for players in Florida where everybody's recruiting, or in the state of Georgia or the Atlanta metro where everybody is recruiting. So I think it actually probably took Missouri down a peg from a recruiting standpoint.
Speaking of quarterbacks that are under 6 feet, you shared this on Twitter here. Your partner, Cole Kublik, and Stetson, and asked which of these two would you cast as an evil genius with a dastardly plan? Stetson definitely looks more evil in that picture.
I totally agree. And I thought about it after the fact. There's a little bit of Kaiser Sose to him, right? And he pulled a Kaiser Sose Saturday night. Like, oh, look, it's just little old us. Like, surely we can't hang in this game, and I've got a limp, and I can't walk straight. And for 3.5 quarters, we look awful. And then all of a sudden, sugar huddle, pound the ball down your throat, and Georgia straightens up and walks right out of the interview with the detective. And before Missouri knows what happened, they're the number 1 team, and they've left town with a win.
That is a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 reference there. Cole can give you that look, though, too, man. If you cross Cole the wrong way, you don't want to be between him and anything that could harm you because he is a big man.
No, he's got that Croatian henchman thing going. Like, he's got that either I've been to prisons in Siberia or I know people who have, so don't test me.
We just saw Aaron Judge hit number 62. We're not going to cut in. We don't have any cut-in rights here. Don't worry about that. But it made me wonder, you've been in the league for a bit now, just in general, doesn't have to do with the record or anything. Yeah. What would be the relic, the artifact in SEC football or any SEC sport that you would be willing to pay the most money for to have in your collection? You got a lot of stuff behind you there. You got some helmets. You got some sweet jerseys. What do you think when you look back on the history of the league?
I don't have anything Georgia back here. How is this possible?
I know. Well, we talked to you when we were doing the Georgia podcast with Shockley during COVID, and you still haven't gotten anything. So that's probably on Mike Bilbo. That's his fault.
It's totally on Bilbo. Here's my newest edition. Was there John Smoltz autograph bat from his golf tournament? But see, it's 3rd place. 3rd.
Interesting.
I mean, might as well be kindling. It says 3rd. Who wants a 3rd place trophy?
I would trade that in for a pack of Pro V1s probably. It might be better for you there.
I do have – okay, so I don't know. This is one of my favorite. This is I picked this up on a trip to Oxford. It was left in my hotel room. This looks like just a regular Titleist range ball, right? But then if we can see it.
Oh, yep.
31-26, the final score from the Ole Miss-Tennessee game last year when they threw a range ball at Lane. So
Love
I keep that one in right here. And then, okay,
that is valuable.
I want to be clear. I don't pay for any of this. Like I don't pay for memorabilia. If it finds me, great.
Sure.
But I'm not. I've got an autograph poster from when I was in fourth grade that my buddy's mom paid $4 for at the sporting goods store, and that's the one piece. This is from Tom Glavine's Cooperstown induction weekend. It is a Pro V1.
That's sweet. Yeah.
With number 47. But here's one of his quote unquote friends was handing these out. Of all of the great stats from Glavine's Hall of Fame career, this one I think probably puts it in perspective. 203 losses. The guy had the golf balls printed up with the number of all-time losses for Glavine. That's epic.
Great.
I kind of went Tim Kirkchin there with my cracking voice, but yeah, those are the two that I've got closest to me right now.
Oh, that's good. You got to get something from the Mad Dog, man. Complete the trifecta there.
It
Tom,
would probably be a dip cup or something like that.
Yeah, it would be something really gross. It'd be something
Totally
disgusting.
There are some stories going around that what he did in the clubhouse were some of the grossest things ever. Like if they were serving chili post game, don't go anywhere near. He would hawk a loogie on the dugout roof and wait for someone to sit underneath it and wait for it to drop on their head.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
You want to talk about an evil genius? That's certainly the case for Maddox. Last one for you here, Tom. 5 weeks into the SEC now, outside of Georgia, anyone else, can be about anybody.
Yeah.
What's the biggest surprise to you about the league? There isn't a lot to look at there. Georgia and Alabama are still seemingly the top two, but what is striking you right now is the other big storyline?
Jimbo's downfall, A&M's ineffectiveness on offense, and his offensive mind is kind of being neutered here by their lack of a quality quarterback. And to me, it boils down to they got Max Johnson from LSU that kind of fell in their lap, and he hasn't proven to be impactful to this point. But Jimbo and Dabo, if your name ends in a vowel, your refusal to use the transfer portal to better your team is just mind-blowing to me. It's like you're some sort of expert that knows better than everybody else. All you have to do is look to Tuscaloosa and look what Saban has done in the portal to better their team, to use it to go grab free agents and to solve their problems with last year at linebacker, this year left tackle, running back. Like, they made themselves better. They had the opportunity to do so. Why Jimbo refused to do it is the biggest surprise. And then Bryce Young's health going forward, I think, as of today, his shoulder injury probably won't impact them against Texas A&M because, as we said, A&M can't score. But if that is something that lingers, I think that's the headline to follow the rest of the way.
Well, it seems like they got a pretty good backup as usual. South Carolina at Kentucky, 7:30 on Saturday. Tom Hart's crew will be there. Wildcats coming off that loss at Ole Miss, and the Gamecocks, I imagine, coming into a pretty angry environment at Kroger Field. Tom, thanks as always, man. Best of luck the rest of the year. We'll talk to you soon.
I need a Peach State Light, and
I'll
be good to go.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.